next project, we'll be opening up and cleaning up a Nintendo Control Pad. All you'll need for this is a standard small Phillips head screwdriver, some water, and some sort of plastic container to keep all the bits in. Alright, the first thing we need to do is just flip it over. And we'll notice on the back here, if you can see down in there, you have some standard Phillips screws. They're not the hex bits. We don't need to get the special driver out. We just got a standard Phillips head screwdriver. And crank it in there and take out the 6 little screws. Now, if you can do it, it helps to take them out and leave them inside the shell so that when you take it apart in a moment, they just all stay somewhat together. You definitely don't want to lose the bits. Any part you lose is going to be a pain to replace. Of course, screw you can probably survive without having 1 or 2 of them in there. It's a bump, but it's probably best if you put them all back, right? Alright, with the 6 screws loose, you can just lift the back right off of there. Sort of set that to the side. Now I still have all 6 screws intact in the shell, and we can see the back of the circuit board here. Pretty basic stuff there. Some cords and a chip. Now if we take this off, you notice the way the cord is wrapped around here. You need to put that back that way when you're done. The cord itself is going to keep that crimp. It should be pretty simple to see how it was later. Just pop that out of there. See the bend in there. And you can lift the board right off. There we go. Now in this case, the control pad stayed attached. You just lift that right off too. There's our actual circuit board. It's not too crusty, a little bit of crud on there. It wasn't, so sometimes you open these up and they're full of who knows what from kids playing sweat, Cheeto dust, and assorted other things we don't want to think about. But this one's pretty clean and actually kind of shiny on the pads. We'll still clean them up a little bit. If they're really dirty, you can get in there with a pencil eraser. I'll probably just get in there with a dry Q-tip and see if any gunk comes off. This part is usually not the part that needs repair. It's usually just these guys. Here's the rubber portion of the actual buttons. You see some buildup of crud on there. It still looks intact though. Set that to the side. Start and select buttons. Same thing, it's just kind of crusty there. We gotta clean all this stuff off and make it so that it actually works when you press the buttons. We can pop the control pad out of here. Yuck. And now we're getting somewhere. See, that's gross. If you got this as a used controller, you're not going to want to play with someone else's funk on there. So you got to take this all apart and put it back together. As a bonus, when you clean it all up, it's going to work like new. Take the 2 buttons out. And we've got our empty face and the 2 button caps. And here's the entire thing broken down. Simply 8 parts. The front, the back, the 3 pieces of rubber that control the buttons, and the 3 pieces of plastic that sit on top. That's it. Now what do we do to clean them up? It's pretty easy. First thing we'll do is grab one of these Gladware containers or whatever else you have that's similar. Doesn't have to be very big. We're just going to throw these pieces in here. Be careful not to tear the rubber parts. Buttons in there too, and we'll leave the back and the front out for now. And now we're just going to head right on over to the sink and put some warm water in there. It'll get a little bit soapy, not a problem. And there we go. Now comes the hard part. Let it soak for a little while. When it's done soaking, we're going to pull those pieces out. We're going to clean them all off by hand, rinse them back off, and put the thing back together. Very, very simple process. All right, they've been in there long enough. I'm gonna just kind of take them out one by one. Sort of be careful not to rip it, but just rub it. Try to get any of the gunk that may be on there off. It should be nice and loose after soaking in that water for a while. Take a look at it. If it looks nice and clean, no more black marks, no more gunk, everything's nice and shiny. Rinse it off. We'll just put it over here on a piece of paper towel and keep doing that with the rest. This is usually the one you have to work on the most because it gets the finger stuff all in there. So let that one go. The buttons are very easy. And then we'll wipe them off again and get any residual gunk off of there at the end. Just Let's take a look, make sure they look clean, looks good. It's basically just giving everything a little bath. This one's kind of crusty here. You can see it's still got some dirt on there. So we're gonna, if we need to, we'll get a sponge. You can also use a soft toothbrush. Q-tip isn't really going to help you in this situation because they don't work well with the water, but hey, it might work. It's getting squeaky clean. Sound, see, there we go, lots better. That's it. Now we got it. Still some dirt on the back here, though. Just be careful you don't rub or clean too hard, as if you rip this stuff, it's no longer useful. There we go. Now I got it clean. Clean back. Clean front. Onto the paper towel it goes. Alright, now let's see here. Sometimes with the little control pad plus piece here, the actual part that you're touching, you might even need to get a toothpick out or something very small and fine. You can see in the cracks there, the little in-between spaces are, and the stuff builds up in there and it's pretty hard to get into. This one actually looks like it came pretty clean. There's some scratches on there, but I don't see any more dirt. Looks like we're all right. So let's move over here to the paper towel with everything else. All right, and basically we're just going to let those sit there and dry for a while. Rub everything, pat it down. Rub the surface of the buttons on there and flip them over so that the open side is down. It's got an opening on this side. It's flat, the part where you actually touch. Put them down so that the opening is on the bottom so it can drain. There we go. So let's let that sit for until it's dry, and then we'll put the whole thing back together. Alright, let's put everything back together. Alright, you want to start with the controller face. Flip it face down. Take your control pad and dry it off. Make sure it's as clean as you can get it. Looking good. Alright, and then you want to put it in there. Sort of turn it till it drops into place. There we go. Do the same thing with the other parts. Wipe or blot them dry if they need it, and drop them back in the hole. Now this part, the select and start button, you see it's got the little hook on it. It's going to go over the little peg there. You don't want to put it in this way, right? Doesn't look right. Put it in so that it lines up with the parts that are there. There you go. Good to go. Take the two red buttons. Same thing, wipe them clean and then drop them in the slots. You see there's the groove and the buttons have little tabs on them. Just set them in there and twist them until they're in the right spot. Alright, pretty good. Next thing you need is the rubber pad for the buttons, and same thing, it's got the two circles on the sides that are going to go over two tabs on the shell. If you do it this way, it looks right. If you do it this way, look at that, it also looks right. How about that? So this one's a little harder to mess up than the select and start buttons. Set that right there. Looking pretty good. We'll take the last piece here that goes behind the control pad. And once again, you gotta get it over the proper tabs, which is pretty easy to do. There we go. Everything all set there. We can take the board and take the side that has the button connections and make sure that it's up against the buttons. So we want it to go in this way. And one more time, because they're really smart designers there, There are little tabs that hook into little slots here, so you know you've got it in the right direction. You got this one, oops, and you've got two more here, a fat one and a small one. The only way you can put this in the shell is the right way. So there we go. Take the cord, stuff it in here in the original S configuration that was in to begin with. There we go. Take the back, which still has the 6 screws in it, but if it doesn't, you just put them back in, no problem. I just popped one right out there, actually. You should not have to wiggle it too hard to get it into place. There we go. Let's go around the edges and make sure it's completely closed, and then screw it back down. Alright, with everything screwed back in, we're going to give it one more wipe down with the disinfecting wipe. Most of the stuff that looks like dirt now is either wedged in a crack permanently or is actually a scratch. It looks like these letters are dirty, they're actually worn off. Can't really see that very well through the camera. But no amount of cleaning is going to get that off of there, because it's actually already been scratched off. This is, after all, a heavily used controller. One more wipe down. Flip that fella back over. There we go. Nice and shiny and clean. Everything, wipe it down and give it the drying off stage here. There you go. Looks pretty good. See the wear around the edges where the thumb hit, but it's not dirty. There's no more whatever that was in there. The top of the shell is yellowing a bit. The bottom is fine, still the original gray. The most important thing is when you connect it, the buttons are actually going to work now. You know, as opposed to having that stuck B button or whatever we had earlier. So it's pretty simple to disassemble these, clean them all up, and put them back together. If you have a box of 10 of them, you can probably do them in about an hour. If you're just like the rest of us and just have 2, it should only take you 10-15 minutes to get them in tip-top shape. So have at it, guys.
Adonis, pull yourself together.